Hello, I'm Stephen McDonnell in Beijing, and this is Foreign Correspondent. It's a boom of, well, biblical proportions. But if, as some say, this is the greatest story ever told, then try telling the amazing story of how Jesus has become a superstar to millions upon millions of Chinese. Now that's a story China doesn't want told. They'll send shadows and spooks and goons to snoop and get in the way. But in the end, we'll get our story, where some clap happily in approved churches, while others worship secretly and illegally in underground hideouts.
Oh, they say I was an anti-revolutionary.
Chinese leadership doesn't like what it can't control. And when it doesn't like something, life can become very difficult, as tonight's story shows. Dawn drumming on Wudang Mountain calls the monks to perform their morning rituals. Taoism in China goes back thousands of years, and this is the most sacred place for the country's oldest surviving religion. Known for its peace and enlightenment, this mountain in central China has a special place in history and literature. For hundreds of years, religious practices here have been favoured by emperors and paupers alike. Not only for spiritual nourishment, but because on Wudang Mountain, Taoism goes hand in hand with Kung Fu.
理解他人是自身的精神，我们自己的精气神。不学他四两拨千斤，一柔克刚，以静制动。这要学我们来说，我们爱好武术。
Zhong Yunlong started learning Kung Fu when he was 13. Like other Taoist monks, his current age is a secret, but he's certainly not young anymore. He says for powerful Kung Fu, the body is not enough. You need religion.
大家都知道，这个人到一定的年龄之后，体能是下降的。 肌肉是萎缩的，因为他的血液循环，他的那个血气啊就不够了，虚弱了，然后他就萎缩了。然后他到了宗教以后，他会更久的去发展。
But the practices here said to enrich Kung Fu were nearly lost during the Cultural Revolution in the 1970s. For a decade, religion, other than the worship of Chairman Mao Zedong, was prohibited. When China opened up again in the 1980s, granting its people wider freedoms, Zhong Yunlong was one of the first Taoist believers who came to Wudang Mountain to become a monk.
开放了以后呢，慢慢的都知道了一点，道教的文化也浮出这个社会了，大家慢慢了解了，现在就不一样了。
According to this belief system, tranquility brings wisdom and energy, and this will in turn deliver a long and healthy life. In recent times, more and more Chinese people are travelling to Wudang Mountain in pursuit of these ideals. Many make the pilgrimage to its most holy site at the mountain peak. To come to these mountains and walk up here does take a level of effort. But whether you're a believer or not, a key reason for doing it is simply to see this old and mysterious place. In the heavily worn steps of their forefathers, Chinese people are again scaling the mountain in order to reach the shrine of Zhenwu Dadi. He was a local prince who's said to have achieved the status of a god when he leapt off the mountain more than 3,000 years ago.
信仰道教，很修身养性嘛。
是吗？
对。
所以是真的可以帮助你。
真的可以啊！你心中有神在，就有神在呀。
最重要的就是说，在自己生活福州之余，就是来为自己的父母，来为自己子女，为父母求平安，为子女求公平。
China once had communism as a guiding principle, but as the country has now pretty well abandoned it, many people are looking for something to fill the void. For others, it's simply because they're inquisitive. Either way, Taoism, Buddhism and Islam have all seen a significant increase in believers. But there's been one religion in particular which has experienced phenomenal growth, and the real level of participation is not even known. The Chongyi Church in Hangzhou is the biggest Chinese Christian church in the world. On the day we visit, there are around 5,500 worshippers here. But this building can hold 10,000 people if they squeeze in shoulder to shoulder.
以前2005年刚落成的时候，聚会不到2000人，现在超过8000人，4倍。
人人都有罪。
Senior Pastor Joseph Gu runs this very model of a modern evangelical church.
你们听见这
They're cashed up with booming attendance figures and riding a wave of Chinese interest in matters spiritual. On this Easter Sunday, 237 new believers are baptized.
别兄弟姊妹，我们奉耶稣的人为你施洗，使你归入这等一下。阿门。
必须承认一件事，这个人啊，不但需要物质的供应，吃啊喝啊，需要精神的享受，音乐啊，这个跳舞啊，或者是交流。
As well as popularity, enthusiastic worshippers and a swanky new church building, Chongyi has something else: government acceptance. The church is officially registered and ultimately answers to the State Religious Affairs Administration. 我知道他们有的时候他们说你们跟政府太近，你们应该听政府说话。你觉得他们说的对吗？
如果你不给他们来，他们怎么去听福音呢？所以我就得给他们交流，而且他们也真正实实在在帮我们，像杭州能够找这个崇义堂，现在在下沙找一个大教堂，都是政府帮我们，都是政策的具体表现。OK。
But elsewhere here in Zhejiang province, relations between evangelical Christians and the government have not been so rosy. Zhejiang in the country's affluent southeast is a hub of Christianity. In some cities here, it's estimated that 1 in 10 people are Christians. The reason the real figure isn't known is that there are two types of churches in China: officially sanctioned and underground. The latter are also called house churches because they meet in informal locations. They're known as underground because to be a member is to belong to an illegal body, and the authorities are wary of any group that organises any type of activities without government control.
Looks like they're in a taxi today.
So when we try and make contact with these underground churches, we start to see the same people hanging around us wherever we go. The moment we arrive in this province, we're being watched, presumably because the authorities knew we were coming after having tapped our phones and read our emails. Every trip to the shop, every walk down the street means being tailed by plainclothes agents. And though we have a lot of new friends, some of these faces will start to become very familiar. Driving also means being followed by the black Hondas of the local security services. At one point, we're tailed for 4 hours in between cities. And no matter what obscure part of this province we visit, they go with us. You might think that around 24 officers using 6 cars would be what you'd need for, say, a major homicide investigation or to break up a drug ring. But that's the number of plainclothes agents we've spotted so far who've been tailing us down here. So the Chinese government is prepared to throw that level of resources into monitoring a few journalists who've done nothing more than tried to make contact with some underground Christians. Despite the security presence, an underground church leader agrees to meet us. We warn him that we'll draw the secret police to his flat, and indeed